What's up guys, it's Aaronitmar. Today there's actually been a big, ripple in the Smash Brothers community ever since about last night at midnight, 1 a.m. Eastern time, when a big announcement happened. And basically, the Project M development team, the people who created Project M, have completely ceased development of Project M altogether. For those who don't know what Project M was, it was a mod of Super Smash Bros. Brawl, which sort of brought the melee physics over into Brawl, but kept characters from Brawl, and it sort of just redesigned characters and made it a more competitive game than Brawl was. They brought over advanced techniques such as wave dashing and L canceling and things like that, and they just sort of made it a competitive game that people really hoped that Brawl would have been before release, but then realized it wasn't after. I believe it started out as an attempt to bring Falco's Shine from Melee over into Brawl instead of having the one where Falco kicks it, and then it just sort of from there escalated into this big project where it was just basically trying to create Melee out of Brawl, and I don't know, it just sort of escalated from there and became this huge popular game. It's how people get, introduced to the competitive Smash Brothers scene, get introduced to streams and that, and it's had a huge impact on the community as a whole in general. So late last night, the Project M development team updated their website with basically just a letter to the community saying that they are done with development. They hope that we enjoy the final release, which is version 3.6, which is already out. Unfortunately, they took the downloads away, which I'll talk about in a second. And they say that any questions that we have or any information can be redirected to the video game attorney and business consultant, and then they offer his name and his email address. And we appreciate your support and understanding. Thank you for playing. So this is the weird part to me, because not a few days ago there were things that were being announced that were going to be added to the next patch, which was presumably 3.7. They had all new Zero Suit Samus models. They were not satisfied with the Brawl ones or the ones that they made for the alternate costumes, so they completely rehauled those. They were going to be added to the next patch. They had a Fire Emblem Awakening Roy alternate skin, I believe, which was going to be added in the next patch, as well as they figured out how to work the physics for the headband, for Green Headband Jigglypuff in Project M, and they were going to add that in the next patch. As well as, I assume they were going to do some bug fixes. I know Ice Climbers had some bugs, Yoshi had some bugs, a few other characters had bugs I'm not entirely sure of, but these were all planned for the next release, and even, a few days ago, the Project M development teams on their subreddit were talking about how they were looking forward to the next patch, and this is going to be in the next patch, and just there was no clues dropped that they were going to stop development of the game. And that's the most curious part to me, because had they said, okay, we're going to dwindle down, we might fix some bugs, but then this is, version 3.6 is going to be what we're going to call the gold release, the final release. This wouldn't be as big as a surprise, because, it sort of prepared us ahead of time. But they were, they still seem to be in full swing of things, still adding things. They were still going to do some stuff, and now it's all of a sudden, at the drop of a hat, they're done. It's kind of odd, and not only because of that, but because they first referred to a video game attorney and business consultant, but they also just, they're being oddly silent on it. They're on the subreddit, they're saying things like, there is no cease and desist, we didn't receive a cease and desist, and that could be perfectly true, but they're sort of denying that any kind of legal repercussions could have happened, and I don't see that happening had they. It's so weird. I don't see there being legal repercussions, or if there hadn't been legal repercussions, I should say, I don't see them just suddenly dropping the game like this. I mean, it just goes back to that point where I said if they were ready to, wind down development on the project and move on to a new thing, they would have said so. They wouldn't have just pretended and acted like they were prepared for the next installment, and then that next installment never came. I don't know, it's very weird. I'm not, calling them out. I'm not saying they're being shady or anything. I'm just saying it's, I feel like there's more in play here than they're actually sharing with us, and, rightfully so. They might have signed a non-disclosure agreement, or they might just feel that this is the best route to go and not saying anything. But regardless, I mean, there's nothing that we can do about it. They just got rid of the game and the download, which is, a further point that if they were done and there weren't any legal repercussions that could have happened, the download would still be there. They'd say, we hope you enjoy version 3.6 of our game. Here, download it for if you haven't yet. but the download is completely gone, or the download link, I should say, is completely gone, because the file still remains there and you can still download, and people are uploading it to Mediafire and making their own mirrors of it. So I'm sure if you search, you can find a download to it somewhere, but they've taken it off access of their site altogether, so that's another, a piece to the puzzle, I guess you could say. Now, as for whether Project M as a competitive game and, a community is concerned, I don't think it's going to die, especially now. There's going to be a bit of a resurgence now that the game is done, and the upside to this is that, before, Project M as a competitive game never really cemented itself with a metagame, with a tier list, because there was always hopes for later patches. This was different from how Super Smash Bros. Melee worked, because once that game was out, it was out. So, the metagame was going to be based on what was on that disc. Whereas with Project M, if they found something was too broken, if they found something was too, messed up, there was a bug, they can patch it in the next release, and, then the metagame then shifts to whatever is in the next release. So there were times where characters were really, really overpowered because of how they were initially designed, and then they were patched in the later games, in the later builds. So for example, version 2.5 Sonic, version either 2.5 or 3.0 Pit, version 3.0 Lucas. There were a lot of, I believe 2.0 had an OP Ivysaur. So there were a lot of fixes that went on that can't happen if there are still and the metagame can't happen if there are still patches that are moving forward. So now that we're at version 3.6, and this is, some people say this is the most balanced Project M has ever been. I'm uncertain on that so far, but because we now have these are the characters we're made to play with. Now this is when the tier list can become showing, and now it becomes a matter of player skill level versus how good the character is, and a combination of those two. So that's the one I guess shining light in the darkness, I guess, because it just it can finally cement itself with a tier list. And that was one of the complaints that Project M had for quite a lot of time, is that it people were making tier lists, and people were saying, you can't make a tier list because this has been out for 3 months, and the metagame isn't developed for this version yet. And now that there are no more versions coming out, you can easily say that you're going to that you can easily build a tier list in the future. I'm not saying it's going to be in the next 6 months, because that is not enough time, but there's going to be a longer timeline now, sort of like how Melee was. Melee came out, people immediately thought Sheik was broken, Marth was broken, and then as the game develops and as people get better, that shifts around, and it just becomes a bit of a better experience. So that's the one thing I look forward to out of Project M, is seeing what characters become the best, what players become the best, and just what happens out of it. But let me know down in the comments section what you guys think of how Project M was the development was ceased. Let me know why you think they dropped it altogether, and I'm just interested to see what you think. What was your favorite character in Project M? What was your favorite feature? I gotta say, I really loved HD Dreamland. That is, I know some people say Project M isn't a Smash game, but it's a Smash derivative. And out of all Smash games, I think HD Dreamland was probably my absolute favorite stage from any game ever. It looked so nice. I mean, I like Dreamland, it's my favorite stage on Super Smash Bros. Melee, but getting HD updated, and it just looks so nice, and I don't know, I just really, really liked it. So let me know what your favorite thing about Project M was. Again, let me know what you think of them dropping the development of it, and don't forget to hit that like button, and have a great day. Go play some Project M, man. Project M is a fun game. Go play some. If you're playing single player, if you're playing multiplayer, go play some. Play some in honor of this great game. Because, alright, I'm gonna keep talking because I don't care. It was a fantastic tribute to Nintendo. They were doing so many things that personify what the Smash Brothers series was always about in my eyes, and it was about glorifying video games, glorifying Nintendo, and Nintendo franchises and things like that. And they just did a phenomenal job of that. From the different alternate costumes, to the different stages, to the different to bringing back characters, and they had other characters planned. They were going to bring in Lyn from Fire Emblem. They were going to bring in Knuckles from Sonic, obviously. They were going to bring in Isaac from Golden Sun. and I believe they considered, you know, Dixie Kong and Pichu, but I don't think anything came of those. But I don't know. It was just Project M is just the you know, they just love Nintendo, and they wanted to, you know, embody the spirit of Nintendo within a game or a mod, and they really hit the nail on the head. And that was the, you know, regardless of the, you know, how you might feel about the competitive aspects or anything like that, that was I want to say one of their biggest goals, and they definitely hit the mark. And so I really want to thank them. If they're watching, that would be cool. I really want to thank them for you know, putting the work into this game that they did. And with that, okay, now I'm done ranting. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, and as always, I will see you back here for some more videos.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1.